have you ever wondered how long a devotional should be? This is a very common question I've gotten over the years since being a writing coach. And one of the things I love about devotionals is the variety. You can open one devotional and it's a full page, maybe 300 words, a story, a reflection. And then you can open another devotional and it's just a few paragraphs and a prayer. So let me give you an example here. This is a devotional I found at a thrift store. You can still see a little thrift store sticker, but I grabbed it because I loved the size. It literally says mini devotionals, and when you open it, you can see what they have inside here. It has a title, it has a verse, it has a short reflection, which is like kind of the meat of the devotional, and then a prayer at the bottom. And the actual reflection itself is probably right around 150 words for each one. And then the entire devotional, including the verse and the title, is probably 180 to 200 words. So I love the size of this. You can have it in your car, you can have it in your purse. And I bought it like as inspiration if I create a mini devotional. Now you can compare that to another devotional, and I don't have one right here. This was the closest one I could grab, but other devotionals are typically longer. They're 300, 500 words, and typically they will be one page, but as you can see, the size of your devotional, if it's small, then it's fewer words, but if you had a bigger one, you'd need more words for that page. So there is a variety of devotionals. So, and I invite you that perhaps instead of saying, how long should my devotional be, perhaps ask yourself, what kind of devotional am I trying to write? Because what you're trying to create, your format will follow that. And this is advice that I've heard from multiple professional writers, that too often we try to pick the form before we really look at the content and what's required for the goal and the content. So I encourage you, think about that first. But as you're choosing the format, there are short devotionals. This would be a short one, 150 to 200 words. It's quick, it's focused, it often includes a prayer. Then there are mid-length devotionals. Those are typically around 250 to 350 words. There's a little more storytelling, a little more unpacking. And then you have long form devotionals. So those can be 400 words or more, and they typically have deeper teaching, maybe multiple points. It's not just a single clear focus. And all of these devotionals work. There's not a wrong or a right size. So they just serve different purposes and different readers. So once you decide your format, it actually makes the writing so much easier. So once you know, okay, I'm doing a short, a medium, a long, and then once you decide my devotional will have a title, a verse, the reflection, some of them have prayers, some of them have journaling questions. So once you decide your layout, then you just do it for all the rest of them. So that's some of the biggest like decision weight that you'll be making. And then the other super important thing to think about is your readers. So if your readers, let's say, are busy moms, you probably don't want a full length 400 plus word devotional. You probably want something shorter, mid-length. So knowing your audience as you're writing and before you even pick what's included will help you know what to include and how to format it. And one more thing to think about when it comes to your audience is the more specific you can be, the better. So for example, this one, Grace for Today, it's obviously for women. You know, there's pink flowers on it. The font even looks very feminine, but it could be for any woman. And when I write devotionals, my audience is writers, of course, but the more specific you can be with your audience, the more likely they are to pick up a devotional. The goal is for someone to look at your book and think that's for me, and that's whether it's fiction or nonfiction. And so when you're writing your devotional, think about if there's a theme that you can structure them around, so it's not just devotional. Think about if there's an audience that you can focus on, or even if there's like a problem or a hurt that you can focus it around. So perhaps a devotional for pet loss, or a devotional when your kids go to college. Like there's so many different niches, and the more specific, whether it's by audience or by theme, the more likely it is to gain traction. So keep that in mind. And then as you're trying to figure out your devotional, the structure, all of that, I always encourage you guys to take time to market research. Don't just be in a little bubble creating your thing. Take a look at what else is out there, what else is selling. I love to look at the devotionals that I love. So obviously this will be one of my examples, but I have quite a few other devotionals. So I look at those, I look at the tone, I look at the structure, what I like, what I don't like. So look at what you love. And then second, pay attention to how other devotionals are structured. So if you go, you could literally go to a thrift store. They often have devotionals, or you could go to a bookstore, or you could even go on Amazon and look at devotionals that already exist, because you will likely gain ideas for your own devotional of how to structure it, the format, and it'll help you see what's out there even as you're thinking through the cover and the copy that you put on the devotional. It always helps to see what is currently happening in the market so that you can create an excellent devotional that gains traction, gains readership. So the goal of devotionals, of course, is to help someone meet God, and that's why spending time at the front end of your audience and the goal of this devotional is so important, because it will help you choose the length. And I'm going to go this way. It'll help you choose the length, and it'll help you choose the format. And then from there, you get to listen and write and pray. I wrote devotionals for Turning Points magazine with David Jeremiah for, I think it was 3 or 4 years. And I love writing devotionals because it can be such a prayerful experience to really think about the scripture, being sure not to take scripture out of context just to make a point. But it can really, as you're writing these devotionals, it can really deepen your walk with God, because you're praying for the readers, you're meditating on scripture, you're crafting a reflection or story around the scripture. I have found that when I wrote the Cultivate Courage devotional with Beth, that was such a meaningful experience, both my own writing and reflection, but then also to read hers and hear her reflections. And while my books, When God Calls a Writer and When God Equips a Writer, are not devotionals per se, they also have that feel of spiritual formation, spiritual direction. And so again, what I love about sacred spiritual writing is that it can really deepen your relationship with God and slow you down to think about these things, sit with God, receive his love in deeper ways. So if you are thinking about writing a devotional, go for it. Whether or not you end up publishing the devotionals, the practice of doing this is such a gift to your spiritual life and to your spiritual growth. If you have follow-up questions, feel free to post those in the comments. I always come back to answer them. And remember, my friends, to stay curious and keep writing, because your words